Saturday, the 28th of May, 2022, Scruffy Murphy's in Birmingham, 7 p.m. Be there. The Chronicles of Podcast. Live. Tickets on sale now. Go to www.ctickets.com.
It's about getting into schools and talking to young people because, you know, I know that people can change. And it's about talking to people and getting them to understand and perhaps step back from violence and prejudice and whatever. And we just need to work together and keep on the good fight there.
Absolutely. Hey there, guys. We are ecstatically happy to announce that we are associated with the Sophie Lancaster Foundation.
The times are changing, and with the unfortunate death of Sophie, those changes have made a massive impact for the future. If Sophie was with us still today, I can guarantee what you are doing will still be reaching so many lives of young teenagers, young adults, and those who wish to be as different as possible. So thank you very much.
To find out more about this incredible foundation and all the work they do, and more importantly, how you can help, head on over to www.sophielancasterfoundation.com.
Hi, I'm Jess Wilde. I'm a sexpert, and you're listening to the Chronicles of Podcast with Tom and Jamie.
Hello. Put your left hand up, everyone. There's your left hand, all right? Get the left up. That's it. Get that left there. I'm trying to wave it, yeah? Get your left up. So your left, put it right there. That's it. Right, left hand. It is in the vicinity of the screen. Throw up the right. Put it in this vicinity of the screen. There you've got your left here and your right here. And you shake it from side to side. Welcome to the next edition of the Chronicles of Podcast. The 37th? The 37th edition of the Chronicles of Podcast. And I believe, Jamie, these are the Chronicles of Jess Wilde, right?
They are indeed.
Wonderful. Should we get the show on the road?
I think we definitely should.
Wonderful. I still enjoy driving. Hit it! Yes, I suppose I better bring this piece in.
I think you better, Ad.
A very sexual piece.
It's a very sexual piece.
Welcome to the Chronicles of Jess Wilde. Jess is a sexpert. She has worked on E4, almost said channel, on E4's sex clinic. She also has a huge TikTok following where she debunks all those sex myths. She has basically worked for Love Honey for many a year and knows everything and everything to do with sex toys. Pretty much.
This I love this interview. This is one where I took a gamble. I was like, let's try talking to people a bit different. We're always talking to people working sensible for once, Jamie. Yeah. We're always talking to people in the entertainment industry and stuff like that. Let's talk to someone a bit different. Let's expand our horizon. So I reached out to a few people, Jess being one of those, and fucking incredible. I loved this so much.
It's a good conversation.
You know, we talked all about taboo subjects, and you know, we got into a serious debate about sex education in schools and stuff like that. It's fantastic. It's such a good conversation, and Jess is absolutely hilarious as well, which made this even better.
She was very forthcoming, a wonderful lady, really lovely. And I know that there's going to be people all over the world that are going to enjoy this very, very much so. It's not your bog standard, oh, you said titties and penis. It's not ridiculous. You know, it's not, it's very informative. It's very mature is what I'm trying to say. That was the way I was looking for. My brain was going like to the file decks then. I was like, it's in there somewhere. It's a very mature conversation. Like Jamie said, it's different to what we normally do. Still funny, still a good laugh, still really lovely, really enjoyed it. We could have gone for hours, actually.
I was going to say, to be fair, I would love to do a part two because this interview only ends because I realised what the time was. I think I should probably start wrapping up.
So instead of talking about it, Jamie, should we get to it?
I think we should strap on, and get to it.
Jamie!
Yes, sir.
Any final words?
Just as always, massive thank you to Jess. This was absolutely so much fun. And well done to your friend's dog. Very well behaved.
Absolutely. Jess, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and speak to us. We really appreciate it. We know you're very busy right now. So it meant the world to us that you could sit down and chat to us for an evening. Ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, interviewing this week, a literal sexpert. She knows everything about sex toys. She has them fucking everywhere in her house. It's Jess Wilde.
Hello.
What's going on?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm actually dog sitting at the moment. So I'm going to warn you guys now. There's 2 dogs in the room. I'm hoping they're going to behave.
I mean, we're pretty used to animals on this show, to be honest.
Okay, cool.
So,
Because it's just trying to keep them. One of them's really nervy. So like every time a bird flies by, or, it just goes nuts. But I'm trying to, we're all calm right now. So I'm hoping it's going to stay that way. But if I have to, I can shimmy them into another room. This is my plan, but it might not. Yeah, he's already looking out of the window. So it could all go tits. But hopefully it's going to be all right.
I had an envisionment of squirrel.
Yeah. It's that. It is completely that. Anytime anything moves, a leaf, it's like high alert. So it's one of those.
Oh,
is it a Chihuahua? Because dogs.
No, he's a Romanian
like
street dog. So he's like a total mongrel, like total mix. And bless him, he's got the best owners who are like super patient and he gets all the care. He's on more Prozac than most humans. He's like, but love him. he's hard work at times, but hopefully I've just fed him. Hopefully he'll get the sleepiness soon. I'm hoping.
Fingers crossed. It's not the end of the world, so it's all good.
We've had a guest before where their cat's arsehole was on show for half the interview. Don't worry about it.
Stunning, absolutely stunning.
Yeah, it started cleaning itself at the same time, and it was just like. But then he was like, "Oh, and my cat is now enjoying itself at this current point in time. Let's all just focus on this for 5 minutes."
Why are cats all like that? It's just cats to a T, isn't it?
Yeah, he probably lives in this massive fuck off house, and it was just that one area where he wanted to be like, "Oh, it's on show." I know where I'm going.
Yeah, exactly.
For the world to see.
What a nightmare. My God. He's already started grumbling under his breath. So if he sounds like he's going to be a bit tricksy, I will move him out of the room. So I hope that doesn't mess up your video or editing or anything.
Not a problem.
Or you can splice it out, can't you?
I could splice it, don't worry.
I mean, we tend to keep it in.
Yeah,
it's more authentic, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, well, if it works for you, I just don't want to disturb the flow of the show,
Well, I appreciate that. We appreciate that, but we could put the elevator music on with 5 minutes later or something.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, nice.
Don't know, our audience might like, dog, get out the fucking room.
Yeah. Oh, bless.
Still, but anyway, we digress. We literally, Jamie will do a nice little interview. Basically, he's going to lure you into a false sense of security. Just lure you, and you'll be like, "Oh, this is actually quite nice." And then we're going to absolutely bombard the living shit out of you with questions. All right?
Sounds great. Sounds perfect.
Wonderful.
That's what we like. Let's get this intro out of the way then. Hello, everyone. This week, we welcome a guest like no one we've had before. This week, to quote 90s icons Salt and Pepper, let's talk about sex, baby, because this week's guest has been seen on E4's The Sex Clinic, Love Honey's YouTube channel, and so much more. Today, we welcome the tattooed sexpert herself, because these are the Chronicles of Jess Wilde.
An absolute pleasure. Might I add, Jess? So thank you so much for doing this. We really do appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for asking me. It's an absolute pleasure to be on the show.
Oh, just too kind. Way too kind. But still, we'll get down to the really hard-hitting shit straight away. How was your pandemic season?
Yeah, it's been weird, hasn't it? I mean, mine's been a little bit different to most, I think, because I've gone to uni. So when the world closed down and work disappeared, I'd been thinking about it for about a year before everything went tits up. And then when everything shut down and my job sort of disappeared. I thought, well, if there's ever a sign to kind of like check out for a few years, so somewhat check out of like the professional side of stuff and head into uni, now is it. So I've been living in Wales and studying. Yeah, because you guys are based in Cardiff, aren't you? Are you in Wales?
He is.
I am.
Excellent. So I'm along in Swansea at the moment. And so I've been kind of stuck in this world, actually, Zoom world, because a lot of the degree has been virtual because we haven't been able to go on campus. So it's a lot of this existing in like a digital screen has been the last 2 years, I feel like.
Oh, are you still doing that now? Or are you actually in lectures now?
So yeah, I've got 1 year left. I've just finished my second year. Well, I've got 2 assignments left, but technically my lectures are done for this year now. Which is great. We finished really early. Yeah, I've got 1 year left, and then I'll be back to work. It's gone crazy fast, like so quick. It's mad.
What are you studying, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm doing media. So the goal is, as you mentioned, I've already done a bit in TV kind of in front of the camera, but I've always been interested in behind the scenes and how things run, how it works. I've always loved that. So the goal is to kind of get into production, because I'd really like to start doing a bit more behind the camera as well, and sort of, push into that side of the TV and film world.
So like doing your own shows or working alongside other people?
So a bit of both. I've got a couple of TV shows that I'm intending to pitch to a couple of productions, hopefully in the next year. I'm hoping. Whether they'll get picked up or not, I have no idea. But yeah, fingers crossed. Really hoping. I mean, maybe they'll tell me they're rubbish, but I think there's a gap in the market for them. But then I think probably it'll be working on other people's shows as well. And it really depends, where I'm very much a go with the flow kind of a person. I do what I like, and I figure that I'll like what I do. And so far it's done me pretty well in life. So I'm open to sort of where that goes. But I think probably I'd work in production, either directing or a production manager, hopefully, is the goal, on other shows, and sort of running the show, so to speak, is the goal.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I wish you all the best with it. I really hope. I'm sure that they'll pick it up and go, this is phenomenal. Get it on now.
I hope so. I'm a bit nervous about Channel 4, the threatening of it going privatized, because, Channel 4 is amazing for the types of shows that I get involved in generally, and the types of shows I want to pitch. So the fact that there's this whisper of it possibly being privatized is a little bit nerve-wracking. So I hope that doesn't happen. But
so I've signed the petition on change. So
get on it. Well done. Get it signed.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's in my opinion, I know we don't really do politics on the show, but it's fucking bullshit and it shouldn't happen. So everyone get on change and make sure Channel 4 does not get privatized. Do it right now. We'll wait.
So before I start asking my questions, I've got to say, Jess, I appreciate you got your hair done just for this interview.
Obviously. Well, as soon as you said that I was going on camera, I was like, right, wait, okay, we need to sort this mess out.
It made me laugh. I was like, our interview's this day, and it was like yesterday or the day before, I was like, I have new hair. I was like, you got it done just for us.
Yeah, nailed it.
So take us back to the days of young Miss Wilde. What were your career plans growing up? What did you want to be when you were older?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I don't think I really knew, I'll be honest. I didn't really know. As I've just said, I'm somewhat a go with the flow person, and sometimes that's great and sometimes that's not so great. So when I left school, I really didn't have a clue. I mean, there's some irony. The only interest I had was I thought I might go to uni to do media, but I didn't really know what I could get out of it. So I didn't go when I was 18, and I've gone now when I'm 34. I don't know if there was a benefit to that gap in the middle or not, because I still ended up doing the same thing. And I was always interested in writing. Writing was always something that I enjoyed and I seemed to be good at. So I figured that would possibly be something I'd go into. And actually, in all honesty, I remember very much looking up to Ant and Dec and thinking that they had the best job ever presenting TV. They were kind of, I mean, I don't know about you guys, but for me, I was an SMTV Live gal. Like when I was a kid, like that was my thing on a Saturday morning. And to me, they were the first TV presenters that I saw that were just themselves and, bounced off each other. They just seemed to be able to be themselves. And I was like, what? I want to do a job like them, whatever it is I do. I didn't know if I'd be on TV, but I was like that. I want to do that, whatever it is that they do. So kind of through luck and a little bit of trying, I've tried to get close to that. And you know, I'm still working my way there is kind of the goal. But I've always been interested in words and presenting, I think has always been something, even though I didn't really realize it as a tangible thing until probably I was in my late 20s. Until I thought, oh, actually, I could actually maybe do this, you know?
It's crazy. I think at the younger age, you don't really know that, do you? You don't really... People just go, I'm going to need to do geology. I'll just do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think they put so much pressure on you at such a young age, because it's like, well, if you don't pick now, you've ruined your life. You know, and like, you'll be homeless and that's it, you know, if you don't. And it's like, oh, okay. So they put all this pressure on you. And I think that almost made me more reticent to do it in a way. I mean, call me an asshole or a rebel, I don't know which, but I don't like being told what to do. And it was almost like the more they laid it on, the more I was like, well, maybe that isn't the only option. And I was also terrified of spending 3 years doing something and possibly hating it by the end and not wanting a job in it, wasting all that money. And that, you know, I'm not from money in any way whatsoever. So it was going to be my one shot, you know, to do the degree. And I thought, I don't know if I'll ever go, but I certainly don't want to waste it if I do. So which is why I somewhat laugh now that the only, you know, course I was interested at the time, I've ended up doing all of these years later, but at least this time I'm sure of it. And I think I do have some advantages in doing it with some experience, and also being older. I'm far more serious about it now, you know. I'm not really doing the partying because I've done all that. You know, I still moved out when I was young, and I still did all of that. I did them in segments, you know, instead. So it's sort of separated, but yeah, they do put a lot of pressure on you at 16, 18.
It's crazy.
Know what you want to be. And
exactly.
Who the hell knows what I want to be? Well, I didn't know what color hair I wanted then. You know, it's like, it's mad.
I'm 35 and I still don't know what I want as a career.
Right? I mean, I'll be honest, I still sway from time to time. I'm like, am I even doing the right course? Should I have done this? You know, and who knows? We're all just trying to do our best, aren't we? And
pretty much
where it goes.
Absolutely. Just quickly going back to SMTV Live. When you mentioned about Ant and Dec being themselves on TV, I love going back on YouTube to find it because it's actually on there. There was an episode, they did a wonky donkey, where obviously the words had to rhyme. Yeah. And there was a single episode where the kids weren't rhyming, and Ant lost his fucking shit and started screaming at the camera. Do you remember this?
Oh, it's one of my all-time favorite things.
It's just, I'm actually going to watch it after this because I really want to see it again. It's like, it's got to rhyme. It's got to rhyme.
Like grabbing the camera. It's honestly one of the best things. And yeah, that was the thing for me, was they broke the rules of television as far as I was concerned. And that, for me, I was like, oh, wait, you don't, you know, by the 90s and the 2000s, it was no longer the sort of BBC, you know, British, you know, perfect accent. Okay, we had more variety on television, but we didn't have anybody really we didn't have anybody going on children's TV and screaming at the children. Yeah, and I was like, oh, heck, okay, this is something else, and I'm into it, you know.
So I was reading on your website that before you started doing what you do now, you trained to be a piercer, you started your own alternative photography, you were a burlesque dancer at one point. Does that go in with that going with the flow, just doing whatever you feel like doing at the time?
Yeah, in some ways. I think piercing was one of the first jobs that I did really want. You know, I just... through my teenage years, I just got interested in body modification in general. You know, I think it started with hair dye, then it moved on to piercings, and I got into tattoos. Not that I'm not an artist, so it stopped at you know, piercings for me as far as being a practitioner. But that was that first job. I remember being sort of 18, 19, and I really wanted that, and it was such a hard industry to get into. So I trained in that. And that was a real goal of mine. Like, I really pushed to try and do that. But it was just through being kind of nerdy about it. It was like the early days of the internet. And I think it was still kind of tail end of MySpace days. And I was, you know, you could sort of, and you could kind of see, you saw this sort of alternative lifestyle that had always existed, but all of a sudden it was more obvious and on the internet, and you could look at other people and see what they're doing. And you could learn a lot about underground things, whether that be music or body modifications. All of a sudden there were these sort of e-zines online where you could go and find out about these things and join a forum or a chat room. So through lots of conversation, I ended up getting really nerdy. I think that was the first topic I got really nerdy about, and I seem to know everything. And it's like, I joke now that effectively all of my obsessions have been about poking something in something else. It's kind of always been my thing. And it started with piercings, and now it's on butt plugs. And I don't know how we got from one to the other, but this is where we are, But yeah, that's kind of the way it went. And then burlesque, I blame one of my close friends for that. She told me, she asked me one evening, she's like, I've booked in to do like this burlesque course, but I'm a bit nervous about going on my own. Will you come with me? And I'll be honest, I didn't really know what burlesque was at the time. And she said, well, it's like a bit of exercise, it's a bit of dance, I was like, yeah, okay, I like dance. Like, yeah, I did pole dancing before. I was like, yeah, this sounds like my kind of thing. Let's go. And then I loved it. And I really loved it. I seemed to be good at it. And I just thoroughly enjoyed that. So I was doing that for a couple of years, and I'm hoping to go back to it one day. I'm spinning lots of plates right now, but I do hope to get back to it one day. But yeah, it's, I did all the things that your mum probably shouldn't be proud of, but thankfully mine is. So.
Yeah. I mean, this day and age, this, everything's out there now. Everyone does everything. Everyone talks about everything. It's all for the world to see. So realistically, I don't know. People have been like, "Oh, you should be ashamed of it." That seems to have disappeared now. That's gone, I feel.
I'm really glad, and it's sort of a strange thing for me, because the things I was interested in, I wasn't interested in them because, well, maybe I was. There's probably something about it. I was interested because it was outside of the realms of normality, or what's socially acceptable at the time. But when it comes to sex education, I've seen that industry change a lot in the years I've been in it, and it has gone from, like you say, something that was, it is still for a lot of people sort of under the covers, or it is, and of course it is private for a lot of people, but people's willingness to speak has changed dramatically from being something that's incredibly hush-hush to now, like you say, more and more people are happy to post their sex toy review online or whatever it is. They're much more open, and I think that's a great thing. But then sometimes I have these moments where it's like, is my job going to even be necessary in a few years? Because it's done exactly what I want. I don't want it to be a taboo. I want this to be completely, that's the point of my job, is to normalize this topic. But the more normalized it becomes, the more I kind of put myself out of a job. So I'm going to have to diversify at some point, I think.
Yeah. But I mean, so my other half made a really good point, which was like back in the 90s, I think Sex and the City was the closest you might have got. People were like, well, but we don't watch porn. We don't talk about that. We don't, that no one talks about that. And then you had like Eurotrash on Channel 4.
Yes.
And then you had like maybe a softcore Emmanuel movie on Channel 5. But that was pretty much it. Yeah. That was as close as you got to anything.
Channel 5 porn.
Unless you obviously bought magazines.
Yeah.
But obviously you had to be over 18, etc., etc. So it's crazy how drastically in the last 20, 30 odd years, how much it's changed.
Yeah.
And now you've got OnlyFans, women empowering themselves, being like, yeah, you want to see it? Well, pay me for it then.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're going to get in my DMs and ask to see my tits, then you know where you can pay me to go and see those, absolutely. I think sort of the main difference for me is it's in the 90s, it was all about everything was sensationalist. Everything was, so it was, and I've said time and time again, I have no issue with porn. Like some people really demonize it, or the sensationalization of sex. I don't see that as a problem in itself. But when it's not balanced with comprehensive sex education, and that's the only access that we have, that's when it starts becoming problematic.
Yes.
So, my job is trying to kind of level it a little bit so that porn can continue being the thing that it is, which is a form of entertainment. But the 90s was certainly a time of sensationalism, and like we had Page 3 girls, and that was like a real thing. The whole ladette culture was like, it was strange. It was like this era of female empowerment, but only if you're a bit like a guy. Like, it was like a really bizarre time. But then we had the Spice Girls. They did a lot of good shit, believe it or not, for female girl power and all this stuff. So, it was an important era, but I'm glad we've gone through it and we've come out the other side now. I think we needed it, but it needed to be short-lived.
Yeah, and then you had that really weird period of Zoo and Nuts.
Yes.
That was weird.
About that.
That was almost like a pair of people going, is this right? Or do we do this? Or what's going on?
It's so strange. I think the magazine culture, I mean, again, you'd sort of, I mean, agony aunts and sort of sex columns actually go back as long as print does, pretty much. You know, it's
wow.
They've been around a long time. And actually, sort of, if we look historically, agony aunts in the early newspapers were some of the highest paid journalists and mostly ignored by the men who ran the papers. They were just like, oh, what are these silly women's talking about now? Like, what are they on about? You know, and actually, you know, they were the ones drawing in the readers because it was the curiosity of it, you know. And I remember as a young teen sort of buying, I think it was like More magazine was one of the girly versions that was sort of targeted. Should have been over 18, but definitely everybody at the age of 13, 14 was reading it because there was a little bit in the back about this big, tiny little snippet that had a bit of sex advice in it and a sex position of the week. I wasn't having sex at that age, but I wanted to know everything about it, you know. Yeah. And then later, you know, we had the sort of lad mags that were problematic for a ton of reasons, you know, how to spot and change a feminist, you know, get to shave her gross armpits and all the rest of it. But Cosmo at the time wasn't much better, and neither were the girls mags really, you know. It was all very much singing the same tune, and it was kind of trying to be groundbreaking, but under a really heavily patriarchal kind of perspective. You know, it was very much how to please your man and how to please yourself in a lad's mag, and it was like, hang on, guys, like, can we talk about the clitoris, like, please? Like, you know. So yeah, it was a strange time for sure.
And that also goes back then to sex education in schools, because obviously I know it's a very touchy subject with most people, because obviously how early do you teach it? What exactly do you teach? That sort of thing. I mean, I was just quite curious to know what your point of view was on that, because I think it should be addressed at least. You know, they don't have to go into a full-on detail. So basically, this is a butt plug. What you do is you loop it up and you shove that in, you know, like something. No, you don't need to do that. Exactly. But at least, because like you said, when you were 13, 14, you're like, well, I want to know all about it. Oh, tell me.
Exactly. So, and you know, knowing about something doesn't mean you're going to run out and do it. And I think that's where a lot of fear comes from. It's like, and actually you're more likely to go and I think experiment. If you can't find this information for yourself, you're more likely to maybe make more risks or trust your mate who maybe gives you really bad advice. You know, I mean, from my perspective, sex is a completely normal thing. I think it should initially be discussed at home. You know, I wish parents were more empowered to talk about it, because all kids reach a point where they go, where do babies come from? Like, we all do it, and it happens at different ages. So, but, you know, I remember asking my mum when I was, I must have been like 4 or 5. You know, when I asked her, I was like, oh, hang on a minute, actually. And I think, you know, because I had a little brother on the way, and I was like, how did that happen, though? How did this happen? You know, and my mum's a nurse, so she was very pragmatic with me. She was like, well, a man puts his penis inside your, and it blew my mind, because I was like, my next question was, well, how do they know how long to put it in for? You know? And she was like, you'll find out when you get older, you know? And she told me enough to sort of, I was like, oh, okay, you know, no stalk business and none of this, you know, fairy tale crap. You know, she gave me a scientific answer. But when it comes to, I think, you know, getting beyond that, and when we start talking about more practical education, like, you know, now it's a bit better. They do discuss more than contraception and things like this. They do talk about relationships and what's toxic and what's unhealthy. You know, there's a lot to unpack when it comes to this. And I think, you know, again, puberty starts at different ages. You know, it can start, you know, as early as 8 or 9 for some kids, and some kids are later bloomers. You know, they're 16 before they really start showing signs of adolescence, you know, really kicking in. So it's a tough one again, but my feeling is, if it's kind of drip fed, it's not a shock then, and it's kind of, you know, you work it in, and maybe you have like you do, you know, you don't learn all of maths in 1 year at school, do you? You do what's appropriate for when you're 12, you do what's appropriate when you're 14, and I believe sex education should be revisited and incrementally taught. And then if kids have extra questions, then you need to give them honest answers, because that kid's obviously ready to know more. You know, that's how I feel anyway.
Absolutely.
Great answer. That was, phenomenal.
Because if memory serves, I was in year 10, I want to say, when I first did sex ed, and that was the only time I ever did it in my life. But obviously
Really?
by year 10,
Yeah.
you kids, you've looked at all this sort of stuff. You know about it. You just start giggling with your mates over the videos you're watching in science. You don't take any of it seriously.
Exactly. And I don't know about you, but I barely remember most of what I was taught in year 10 anyway.
I just remember this flopping in between a man's legs. That's literally all I remember from that whole video.
It's like, you've got to then later in life, at some point you're probably going to have sex. And can you remember any of the important details you were told whilst you were giggling with your mates and you're distracted? So, I mean, it's not helpful education. It's actually a complete waste of time. And often it's thrust onto normal teachers who also are carrying their own shame and weirdness from, because we all do, I do, we all have weird hang-ups about sex because it's learned. And so you're expecting, some form tutor who trained in teaching music or maths or English now is going to teach a group of giggling kids how to put a condom on a banana. And it's like, guys, it's not fair. They should bring in specialist teachers, really, I think, annually to teach this.
100% agree.
And I don't think sexes should be split either, because at the moment still you often have the boys scurried off into one room where they're taught about condoms, the girls are scurried into another one where they're frightening the life out of about pregnancy and toxic shock syndrome if they wear a tampon too long. And that's the education we had, and we don't it doesn't matter whether you're straight, gay, or something in between. The fact is, you either need to understand your own body or potentially somebody else's. And,
absolutely.
I just think it shouldn't be split, and it should be more normalized. And it would make it easier for straight couples to talk to each other, I think. If it was just from the word go, it wasn't a thing that was separated by gender or by sex. It just seems strange to me to do that.
I didn't even know I went to a boys' school, so I didn't even know that was a thing.
Right.
So, wow.
So that's really interesting. So I'd be interested to know what the difference is between the sex ed that happens in just a one sex only school, a boys only school versus a mixed comprehensive. It'd be I wonder how that was different.
Interesting stuff. But I suppose because we've breached the subject now, how did you even become a sexpert? What even made you go, I want to go into that?
Well, yeah, I mean, so it started out, I found out, so do you know the company Love Honey?
Yes.
Yeah.
Them. So they've been around for quite a while now. And I liked their website. I knew about them, but I didn't know that they were based up the road from me. I was like, wait a minute. Wait a freaking minute. How are they up the road and how am I not working there?
That's what LH trading means.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. So I was like, right, okay, number one, I hated my job at the time. I think that contributed to my ferocity in getting the job at Love Honey, because I had somehow, this is where going with the flow is bad, I'd somehow ended up as an accountant.
Oh.
Yeah. It was
what I pictured. Okay.
No, me neither. And I still don't understand. It was one of those jobs, I'd worked in retail. My friend, I wasn't happy in retail. The pay was rubbish. And a friend of mine was like, there's a job going in my office. You could come. And I was like, yeah, I'd worked with her before. I was like, yeah, whatever it is, it'll be better than this. I was wrong. It was not better than that. And so I was an accountant for a while. And I worked for Air Sprung Beds. They are it was just awful. It was just so bad. Everything was so bad about it. So anyway, in this meantime, I discovered that Love Honey were based the next city over. And I was like, oh my God, I could work there. I could work in their customer care team. I could feel it in my bones. I was like, I need to work at that place. So I sent them an email out of the blue. They weren't looking for people, but I was like, I'm going to email the manager anyway and just tell him that he needs to employ me. And he was like, well, we don't really have any positions, but, you do have a CV. I'd worked in customer care before. I had good training. And he was like, well, we'll keep in touch. And it was one of those, it's like, I'll let you know. We'll keep in touch. I was like, I'm going to hound this guy. So for the next 18 months, I emailed him every other month. And was like, any jobs yet? You got any jobs yet? Have you got any jobs yet though? Can I have a job? And he got I think I just wore him down. I mean, clearly I hadn't learned what consent was at this point or something. I wore that guy down. So I wore him down until he was like, right, well, I'll just invite you for a chat. We'll have it's not an interview, it's an informal chat. You know, it's like, okay, that's fine. I've got my foot in the door now. And I knew if I could get in there, I could hopefully sell myself to them. And it kind of worked. So I eventually got this job in customer care, and I'd been there about 3 months. So I was still in my probation. And my manager pulled me to one side one day, and he's like, you know, you're doing a really good job. Really like what you're doing, but your emails are really long. Like, because like people would write in questions about like, what toy should I buy? How do I use this? Da, 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 da. And I'd approach this subject the same as I did with piercing. Like I lapped up every single bit of knowledge that I could. And I just read and I watched and I learned. And, you know, and I've always, like I said, I've always been interested in sex. So I like spent the years anyway, kind of like brushing up on this subject. So when it came to offering advice, I was very happy to do that, you know, and I would write out these long emails. And rather than telling me off or saying like, you need to shorten your emails or, you know, spend a bit more time on the phone, he said, you know, I really think you maybe want to join the content team and maybe write for the website instead, because you obviously have an affinity for writing. And it wasn't until then that was the first time I thought, oh, wow, maybe I could actually be a writer. You know, I'd done well at English at school. My teachers had said that maybe I'd want to write. And I just thought, oh, yeah, but, you know, that'll never work for me. And this was the first time someone was saying to me, like, oh, we might want to pay you to write stuff for us.
Nice.
So I applied for that job, and going full circle, you know, they gave me an interview to move teams. They liked my writing. They were still a bit like, yeah, well, I don't know, because normally we take on people who, you know, have studied writing, like, you know, English at uni or something like that. Now, what other skills have you got? And I'm scrabbling my brain. I was like, oh God, what else do they do? Because we used to like code part of the website and content. And I knew what they did over there. I was like, well, I know HTML, MySpace days. I was like, I know HTML. I was like, and they were like, their eyes lit up and they were like, right, okay, so you can format our blog. I was like, yes, I can do this. So that kind of got me in the door. So thank you, MySpace. Thank you, Tom in MySpace, for teaching me HTML. Yes.
Wherever you are.
Wherever you are, Tom, wherever you are. But yeah, so it kind of got me in the team. And I was the only staff writer for quite some time. So I used to write all the product descriptions, all the blogs, everything you read on that website. I used to moderate the forum. And I did all of that for a while. And I just kind of kept pushing. I was just a bit of a yes person. You know, they were like, oh, do you fancy doing this? And, oh, we've got a TV documentary coming in. Are you happy on camera? I was like, I don't know, maybe. Like, let's see what happens, kind of thing. And just kept pushing. And then, you know, years down the line, the YouTube channel came about. And it just kind of, I was just very happy to put my face to the company. I was very proud to work for them. They were very supportive of me and taught me a lot. You know, I learned so much in my time there. And it just it was just one of those situations where the stars aligned and it just kind of, everything worked for a really long time there. So that's kind of where it began.
Amazing. I just got this image of like the aura coming down, like ha ha, and like it's coming through the doors and stuff. It was just like everything is finally aligned.
Yeah, it was really one of those moments. And I mean, it was kind of lucky. I don't know if you guys watched any, because they've had a few TV crews go in there, because obviously lots of people want to see behind the scenes at Love Honey and, you know, what's it like packing dildos, you know, like everyone really wants to know, you know, what it's like. You know, it's in many ways it's really funny, and in other ways it's the most normal thing ever. Like, you know, it's like it's so ordinary. But before I joined, I watched one of them. There was a Channel 4 show called More Sex Please We're British, and so I'd watched that ahead of time as like research for my job. And then when I went in, I met all these people that I'd seen on TV, which was like really strange. I knew I'd had this experience of like, oh, I've seen you on the TV. And then we had other guys come in, other crews come in. They did Frisky Business, and The Joy of Sex Toys was another one that came in. And I was on those shows. And that was kind of my first foray really into like talking on camera and being in a reality TV show. Then it was really bizarre when new people would come in and be like, oh, I've seen you on the TV. I was like, oh, I know exactly what that's like, because I had the exact same experience when I came here. So it's like, it's weird. It's weird.
I imagine there's a hell of a lot to learn doing what you do, though, because, you know, you've got the biological side of things, the psychological, different things people are into, especially like different kinks people are into. Like, how did you learn? Is it literally through studying, or is there just asking people? Is there literally courses you can do to learn all this stuff?
Well, it's kind of all of those things, really. It's almost all of it. And like one thing, you know, when you get like companies that have like cheesy mantras, like Love Honey have got those and they kind of work. And one of them that I really took to heart is you can never know enough about sex because you cannot know it all, you know? And I've always said to people, you know, I could, if I thought I could learn everything and I could know everything up until this very moment. And tomorrow someone's going to stick something in something that's never been done before. You know, there's going to be something new. So there's, you can never know it all because humans and sex itself is so complex. Like you say, there's so many aspects to it that, you know, one of my greatest things that I like to teach other people, and I try and remember myself, is that it's okay to not know stuff because that, you know, you can't know it all. And if somebody does ask me something, I think, wow, I actually don't know that, you know, it gives me another thing to go away and read about. And so to answer your question, there's a lot of reading, a lot of meeting people, asking people, listening, lots of listening to people tell me what they're into, because it is so individual. But there are also courses. I did go to college while I was at Love Honey as well, and I studied an NVQ and sexual happiness, as they call it. And I'm thinking about possibly moving on to be an accredited therapist in the future, but maybe we'll see where that goes. So I tend not to dabble too much in the psychology side of things, because I just think, you know, as complicated as sex is, the brain is even more so. And you know, my psychology A level ain't gonna cover enough, I don't think. So I try to stick to pleasure specifically. I almost come at, so to speak, I almost come at sex and sex toys from a perspective of almost like a foodie might talk about food. It's like your tastes are completely individual. Nothing, as long as you're not harming yourself, is bad for you. And everyone's completely individual, you know. And so I very much come at it from a point of pleasure. Like I like to refer to myself as a sex toy expert. So toys is really my nerdism. And then a pleasure activist. You know, I like to push for people to explore their bodies. And, you know, there isn't one rule book for it all. There really isn't. So you can learn and you can sap up a lot of information, but no one's going to know it all. And that includes people like me who work in this industry. You cannot know it all.
And then it obviously can go to the point where if people are experimenting, why you then get people who go into hospital with like a Ken doll up their ass, or the World War II bomb was quite an interesting one.
Right? Yeah.
That was nuts. Yeah. I mean, and again, we know everyone has their individualism and has their own kinks and stuff, but really? I
know, like that is out there. And, you know, I like to never judge people, but like, dude, like,
yeah,
dude.
What if that's still live? What do you like to, like, obviously like anal play, but then do you like blowing yourself up at the same time?
Yeah, like someone didn't think this through. And I know, you know, we all get caught up in the moment at times. Yeah. But like, you know, you're looking around your house thinking, right, what can there you go. That's why have you even got a live bomb in your house anyway? Like, why is this just on the mantelpiece? Like, waiting to, like, I don't understand. Like, I have more forgiveness of one guy, one jar. Honestly, I have more.
Oh, please no. Recovered from that, or two girls and one cup, please.
Oh God, yeah. Which is worse? I just don't know. But both of those instances, like, they can at least explain why they had the objects in their house. Why have you got a fucking World War II bomb in your house? Like, I don't understand. But
sorry, Jess, I kept interrupting you. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. But it's almost like he looked at it and went, cucumber? Nah, too thin.
In there.
Cling film roll. No, might come off in there. Might come off. World War II shell. Perfect.
That's the one. I mean, God. Yeah, exactly. And that is one thing where, you know, sort of talking about how you can't know all and everyone's free and everyone's independent, so there's no hard rules and stuff. There are some rules, and that is never put anything up your butt that doesn't have a flared base, for Christ's sake. Like, there aren't many strict rules, but that is one of them. Like,
you have to be able to get that bad boy out too.
Exactly. Like, no one wants to go to A&E. I'm pretty sure even the biggest like exhibitionists out there who want the world to know what they're doing, I'm sure even they don't want to be in A&E explaining to a doctor how they fell on a potato or whatever it is that they tell people that they've done.
Fell on, yeah.
Yeah, fell. I mean, God. if that was the case, surely we all would have done it at some point. Like everyone's fallen over on stuff. Like it doesn't, you know.
It's 2022, guys. Just be honest. Just, you know.
Exactly. Yeah. So experimenting with a bomb. Okay. Like.
I work in a hospital. I'm sometimes work on A&E. I'm still yet to have anything like that come through the door when I'm working. I'm gutted.
Damn.
I know. I'm waiting for the day. What I love about you, and even now talking to you as well, is this self-confidence you exude, you know, to be able to talk about these sort of things. Because let's be honest, not a lot of people in this world have the confidence to write an article like A Beginner's Guide to Fisting, etc. Which you know, where does that come? Is it confidence or is it just a lack of giving a shit?
Do you know? What's the difference? I don't know. Like, you know, I think probably it's more I don't give a shit. But I don't know. Maybe that is that maybe what confidence is? I don't know. I honestly don't know. I think for me, you know, the initial thing, I guess it's been an incremental journey. I was always very comfortable talking and giving advice on this topic, you know, or as soon as I feel confident enough that I know enough about a thing, I'm very happy to educate other people. And that could be any subject, really. And sex is no different. But I think it was very normalized in my job. You know, you start out writing, you know, beginners sex toys and how to use a bullet vibrator. And, you know, across 7 years, by the time, you know, you're towards the end of that kind of a role, writing about how to fist doesn't really seem like, I don't know, it just seems like a natural progression, I guess somewhat as well. My particular role when I was presenting for Love Honey, by the time I left, you know, the team had really grown, and we'd gone from me, like I said, being that one writer to we had a handful of writers, and the way we used to divvy up the writing for the website was by product category. So we had somebody who'd write about the sex toys, we had somebody else who wrote about the lingerie, and then I used to write about all of the bondage, and then the lotions and potions and lubes and stuff like that. So those are my categories. So I learned a lot about what some people might think of as being like extreme sex play or whatever, I guess. But once you've read enough about something, it feels quite normal. So honestly, to be perfectly honest, writing about fisting and writing about how to cook a Victoria sponge to me don't feel any different, you know. Like they just don't feel that different. In fact, I'd be more comfortable writing about fisting because I feel like I know more about it than I do about baking. Really, in all honesty.
Just don't do them both at the same time.
Yeah, maybe those things are separate hobbies. Yeah. But yeah, honestly, I don't know. I think there's certainly a part of it though that I decided early on that I was very happy to put my face to the company. And that's something, you know, talking earlier about how the industry changed. I remember in my early days in content, one thing Love Honey used to really encourage was sex toy reviews, you know, and people would write in and, you know, because obviously if you're an e-commerce company, it doesn't matter what you sell. We all know how Amazon reviews do, you know, it's really important for sales. So they were like one of the first people to do this with sex toys, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, you know, we'd post them all. And we said, you know, okay, well, videos are really becoming a thing now on social media. Wouldn't it be great if we could get people to send us some video reviews of, you know, with their face, you know, not cropped here, but like them talking, you know, and we would reach out to some of our, you know, most popular like common customers that would shop with us a lot and who we felt were very active on the forum, and all of them were like, I'd do it, but I'm not showing my face. Absolutely not. I'd want to wear a mask. I'd want to do this, you know. And so there were a couple of us in the company who were like, well, let's lead by example. We'll do it. You know, a few of us will post a review of a toy and put our face, and maybe that's how we can start. And I felt like, you know, once you've done that, I kind of popped the bubble then, and I was very happy to kind of, I was known then, you know, as the professional pervert. So it's like, well, where are you going to go from there? You know, you've got to just lean in, haven't you? So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it's confidence, not giving a fuck, or something in between. I'm not sure.
This could just be me making an assumption here, but do you find that men are less comfortable to talk about these things than women are?
Yes, I think, well, it's a tricky one. I think when it comes to toys, definitely. There's still a real stigma around guys using toys for themselves, with a partner, like whether it's, I think guys getting toys for themselves still very much feel it's almost like instead of a partner, or like, oh, can't you get a girl, is still kind of like a weird myth, that it's sort of only like lonely guys or whatever who have sex toys, which is just not true at all. Or that, your partner's sex toy is competition with you, and that it's they go to that when you haven't satisfied them or whatever the hell, which again is, I'm pleased to see you guys shaking your heads, is completely not true. It's not the case. It's your sidekick, not your competition. Exactly. And that's the way that it should be. But you're absolutely right. I think there is still, generally speaking, in wide sweeps here, generally speaking, guys are more sort of reticent to talk about real pleasure and exploration, which is it's a strange thing, because there's sort of such a divide here. And I think in reality, like, guys can be a bit more forthcoming when it comes to, sliding into your DMs, for example, or like, reaching out in that way, or maybe making like the first move and things like this. But when it comes to the real reality of, doing something to up your game, or, that could take you to the next step, then yeah, I think a lot of guys are nervous about this. And I wish I could get to the bottom of why. I've got a few theories, but I feel like that is the proof of where my job is still necessary. And, it's when I read the comments on stuff that I post online, generally speaking, it's guys who want to make me shut up. Like, they don't want me to talk about these topics. And I think it could be from a myriad of reasons. It's either they don't like an empowered woman, or they don't like a lady talking about sex. They certainly don't like me talking about men's things, because I don't know, I need reminding that I don't have a penis, in fact, so I'm not allowed to talk about these subjects. Because I know I need to remind them that I can in fact read, and I can, like, it's a crazy thing. There's a lot of issues with this, and I don't know if it's like an ego thing. I don't know. I think guys are socialized to almost believe that they're already sex gods, and it doesn't matter what topic you're talking on. If you already think you know it all, it's the most dangerous position you can put yourself in, because you're never going to learn anything new. And that's on any subject. You always have to be humble enough to realize, like I said earlier, you can't know it all. So, things change all the time. And that's, like I said, that's on any subject. As soon as you start thinking you know it all, you've stopped growing, you've stopped learning, and you've stuck yourself in a box, so yeah.
I think part of me thinks it is that whole macho, I am man, I don't need help sort of thing. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, it's like, it seems like it's socially acceptable. It's perfectly fine for a woman to own a vibrator. You go enjoy yourself, love. But if a man owns a sleeve or whatever that may be, pervert, fucking weirdo.
I know. Yeah.
And I've experienced that firsthand. Like, when I met my wife, I had one of those toys, and she was like, "The fuck is that? What do you got that for?"
Really?
It seems to be that social difference, and I don't get why.
I know, it's such a strange divide, and to me it's always baffled me as well, because when you sort of rewind the clock back, I'm sure we can all relate to sort of when you're in your teenage years, it couldn't be more opposite. It's, I remember in teenage years, like, the guys coming in and like they'd openly talk about having a wank and all the rest of it, and it was not a thing. Whereas girls like, oh fishy fingers or whatever, like, it was all this thing. It was like, it was completely, it was wrong and bad. It's almost like internalized slut shaming. Like, you haven't even been with somebody else, but women aren't allowed to do that thing, at any age, actually. And then men are kind of, or young guys are kind of, celebrated for it, and like, oh yeah, you've reached the next level of manhood kind of thing, But then something flips when we get to a certain age, and I don't know what age that is, where, all of a sudden women start investing in their self-pleasure, I think. And guys don't, and are shamed for it. And I think it's also, it's a great misunderstanding on sex in general. I think a lot of sex, when we're talking heterosexual sex anyway, is extremely penis focused. And it's like, sex is simply a penis going into an orifice, and a guy, is, the myth is that guys can easily reach climax from just doing that thing. Like, you don't need to do anything else. But firstly, I say, you might not need to, but don't you want to try something different? Like, don't you want to experience something like else? Or, you know, again, I go back to food all the time when it comes to sex. Like, you could have sustenance off of one meal for the rest of your life. Are you going to enjoy that though? Like, don't you want to try some different flavors? Whereas, you know, like, it just baffles me. It really does. But yeah, there's this kind of like stigma around that. And then, so what I hear from men later in life, but also it can happen at any point, is if at some point during their lives they're having erectile difficulties, whether that be a temporary thing, you know, you're going through a bit of stress, you're on some new medication, any of these kinds of things, or maybe it's something a bit more long term, you know, you reach a certain age in your life or got some prostate issues, whatever it is, then their whole sex life crumbles because everything was focused around that erection. And it's like, oh, you know, you've put all your eggs in one sexy basket and now your basket's broken, you know? And I think basically we need to do a whole revamp on how people look at and understand what sex is. You know, I'm a great fan of throwing in the bin certain words like virginity, that's not a thing. Foreplay, I don't think foreplay is a thing. I think it's all part of sex. You know, there isn't a fore to it. You know, sex starts from kissing or whatever it is you determine is sex. So yeah, I just think that we need to really redefine what sex is. And I think it would help both sexes actually better understand it, and also understand that buying a sex toy for yourself, no matter your gender, is no different to putting ketchup on your chips. Like, it just takes something and allows you to make it better, right?
I love that analogy.
I mean, is the male side of things, is it more like a generational thing as well? Because, you know, I think back in the day, a lot of men didn't really talk about like their feelings and that sort of thing. Like back, I think how it's portrayed on TV and movies and that sort of thing, and books is like always men were like, we're men, we know, well, we don't talk about that shit. That's what women do.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, but then you get that side of it as well. Like, I remember watching some Lee Evans stand-up comedy, and he made a joke about how his dad was like, because he's going on a date, it's like, oh, son, give her one for me. Like,
yeah.
That's quite weird. Like, why? This is from me dad. Like,
by the way, this one's from dad. Like,
yeah, like, it's just weird.
It's so bizarre. And I think there is some truth to it being generational, but also there's some issues in the fact that shit gets passed down, you know, and I think it does get diluted. And the more that we have conversations like this, and we've got guys like you chatting about this on your podcast, I think it is changing. It is getting more diluted, but you can almost see it as well in the field of sexpertism and sex education. If you really look at the people who are doing the same job as me, it is predominantly women. You know, there are some amazing male sex educators out there, and they hit a lot of problems too. But it's a tricky one, because guys, seemingly, if I trust all the comments I get, and I take them with a pinch of salt, but guys, either they don't want to listen to it from a woman because, like I said, they think that, you know, I don't know about what they need to know about.
Yeah.
But they also don't really want to hear about sex from a guy because I don't know what that means. Like, it just doesn't seem to be a way in. And this,
he thinks he's better than me. He knows more than me, does he?
Yeah. It's almost like almost like a competition thing. It's really strange, you know. But then I do wonder, sort of as we were talking, you know, I wonder as well, some of the stigma comes from just practically a biological side of things. Like, I mean, the clitoris isn't freaking hard to find, and it is on the outside of the body. But what I will say is that for many years, and, you know, women included in this, you know, there wasn't good education around pleasure, and women didn't understand their own bodies. And also there's a lot of shaming around, you know, I know a lot of women my age and older who've never still looked down there. You know, they didn't take a mirror and take a look. And it's like, gosh, you don't even know your own body, you know. But it means that people don't know how to explore pleasure. And there's still a lot of people think that the pleasure zone is internal. And that's just harder to reach without an accessory. Whereas guys have got the advantage in some ways, and that all your bits are right there. Like, they're right there, you know, and it's there. So you can get a certain amount of gratification and pleasure with, you know, these. Whereas unless you fold yourself up like a pretzel as a woman, it's kind of tricky to, like, Get into all the zones, and also you kind of need to like double tap and do all this stuff, and it's a bit trickier. So you mentioned Sex and the City earlier, and the rabbit vibrator like took off from that TV show because it did both, and it solved it. All good products do something, they solve a problem, and the problem was being able to do all of the things at once, and the rabbit vibe just did it, and so I think there's something to be said for just anatomy as well. There is that too, that possibly leads into the differences between how men and women think about sex toys. Like, we kind of need them, whereas guys, it really is a want. You need to want that in a way, whereas a lot of women, I think they feel they need it to be able to achieve climax on their own.
Okay. I actually get what you're saying there. Yeah, it does make complete sense. Obviously, as we've just been discussing, you're a big advocate of toys in the bedroom, not just for solo play, but with a partner as well. But why is it that you push that message so hard? That seems to be your mantra, as you say, your thing you've put your focus into. Was it like a passion of something that's happened in your past? Or is it just from working at Love Honey and going, people need to know about this?
Really, it was I think my time at Love Honey that really made me realize what a door opener it was for people. I mean, I'd had my own sort of experiences before. The thing is, like, I don't tell many people this, but like in my personal life, I'm not a fan of vibrations. Like, it's almost like something that I keep on the down low in some ways, because I tell other people about how great they can be for other people. But a perfect example of how this is so personal is like, well, they don't work for me, but they work for like the vast majority of people out there, and they can be amazing. And it's through conversations with other people who have come to me afterwards and gone, oh my God, I tried this toy either on my own or with my partner, and it like unlocked something new. We discovered a whole new level of passion, or something I've never discovered before. And that to me is like, that's so cool. Like, I like, it genuinely makes me so happy that people have these moments. And your sex life does feed into your relationship in general. It's kind of part of, if you're in a relationship that involves sex, it's part of it, and it's part of your overall well-being. And sex and sexual gratification it's not just a want, it's a need. It really is. It falls under the sort of the 4 needs. And so if a toy is going to help you do that, and it's going to help you do it more easily, then I'm in huge favor of anything making life easier, whatever that is. And toys do that. So I think that's where a lot of that comes from. It's hearing other people's experiences and just being like, wow, okay, this is really cool. And then on the flip side, there's a lot of elements that I had never even considered before, which again has come through from speaking to people. A lot of us who are able-bodied, we think of it as being, a luxury or an add-on, like a sex toy. But there are a huge number of people out there who are less able-bodied, who this is a necessity for them. An accoutrement like a sex toy is an absolute necessity for them to be able to fully explore their sexuality. And so if I can help in normalizing the use of sex toys and just making it as normal as any other household appliance, like, you could have an analog toothbrush, but you can have an electric one, and every dentist puts an electric one, it's just, there are some ways you can make your life better. So if I can normalize it for everyone, then it helps to normalize it for everyone, then those people who really do need these things to help explore their bodies properly.
Yeah, I never even thought of that. That is a really good point. Yeah. When you were saying that as well, it got me thinking about, say, transsexual people. They've just had a change. They've got a whole new set of rules to play with. Absolutely. They've got a whole new toys to explore, you could say.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing is, when I say able-bodied as well, it comes back to what I said earlier. If we just take the erection, for example, the fact is, any one of us at any point could become less able-bodied. That can happen. It's becoming part of the disabled community is actually one of the communities that any one of us could become a part of at any given second, right? And so it's a good idea to be knowledgeable about these things. And, again, I used to have a lot of customers that we would talk to who are later in life, maybe in their 70s or 80s. They're still having sex. Lots of people don't talk about the fact that older people are having sex. Of course they are. I hope I still am. I hope that I'm continuing to have a happy, healthy sex life till I die, hopefully, you know, if my bits all still work and everything, that's the goal. And if they don't work, well, I'm going to be bringing a sex toy in of some kind to try and like, you know, like work on that. So what I'm saying is there are lots of people who maybe had never considered it before, but then would come to us, you know, in their 70s or 80s and be like, oh, actually, you know, I am thinking about trying a cock ring, or I'm thinking about trying a strap on because my tool doesn't really maintain hardness anymore for long enough, but I still want to be able to enjoy that type of intimacy with my wife or with my husband, or, you know, so it can be a tool. It's not just a toy. It can really be a tool as well.
So I noticed, talking on the subject of sex toys, veganism is now absolutely massive.
Yes.
This day and age, and obviously there's now like vegan lubes and vegan sex toys, stuff like that. I mean, did the demand just go absolutely mental when that became much more of a, not mainstream is probably the wrong word to use, but now more people are vegan and stuff like that. So obviously you had to cater to their needs as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And that's a mad thing. So I'm plant-based and I might eat the odd egg, but like I am pretty much, and I
don't tell anyone. Don't tell the chickens.
Don't tell the chickens. But yeah, but I was like proper vegan for a good couple of years, and so again through that I learned a ton of stuff, and I was like, wow, okay, so not all lubes are cruelty free, like, you know, because it comes under cosmetic testing and medical testing in some instances. So it's, you know, like no medicine is vegan. Well, no medicine is cruelty free, because those are two separate things.
Yeah.
But like most condoms are not vegan. They contain casein, which is a protein taken from milk. So it's like, right? So like this is all stuff that I discovered through my own journeys, really. I tried starting to write about, and again, you know, like I said, I wrote about bondage a lot of leather in bondage. Yeah. And there's a lot of latex, again, which uses casein. So it's, all of a sudden, because it became an interest to me of like, oh, well, I want, you know, if I'm eating vegan, then I want my sex to be vegan as well. So, you know, I ended up learning a lot of stuff through that. And like you say, yeah, it's more and more people are doing this for whatever reason it's, whether it's health or environmental, for the animals or all of the above. And absolutely. So there is a real push. And I think just as we're seeing in the food market, you know, I think it is somewhat trendy, although I absolutely support it, of people putting like the vegan stamp on stuff and making it more clear when they are vegan friendly. We are seeing that now in, like you say, lubes and condoms, yeah, and other accessories for sex play as well, which I'm all in favor of. You know, the clearer you can label stuff, it's not about pushing an agenda. It just means that those people who do care about that thing can know what they're buying.
Yeah.
You know?
I'm just trying to get my head around vegan sex toys, because it's not a real rabbit, so... What?
Well, the thing is, you have to ask if it consents. I think that's the main thing. Yeah, I think that's the thing. You ask the rabbit's permission, then it's
So on your social media channels, you do a lot of like myth debunking and stuff like that, especially on TikTok, I've noticed. What would you say are some of the most common myths and questions you get asked?
Oh God, that's a tricky one, because a lot of the myths I debunk I take from comments, because I can never I think almost it's like I'm too close to the subject. I'm up here, yeah, and so I'm coming at this from a like, oh, I think people would want to know this, and then I'll get a comment in my responses, and I'm like, oh God, yeah, I forgot people think that. And then then I'll respond to that. So what was the recent one I had? It was if a guy, you know, if a penis turns into an erection, like if it goes hard, the only way to get rid of it is with a climax. It's like, wow, okay, yeah, I forgot that was a thing. So
is it?
Well, yeah, precisely. So obviously I debunked that, but I was like, wow, I forgot that people think this, or that, you know, kind of what I was saying about how, you know, all sex centers around a penis going in a vagina. You know, that's to me is a myth, you know, because otherwise, are lesbians virgins?
I was literally just about to say, yeah, lesbians.
Lesbians, like zero penis. Are they having sex? No, like, yeah, I don't know. It's like, yeah. So, I mean, there are a lot of myths. You know, we've kind of covered a couple really here. You know, that guys using sex toys must be lonely or can't get a partner. Like that's a major myth. That's sort of almost like the core of what I do is trying to debunk that. That's the major myth I'm trying to debunk. Or that that there should be any shame around sex and sex toys, or that, improving your sex life is shameful in some way, or, you're going to go to hell or whatever the hell, because it's, again, there are major differences between, what I hear from UK people versus people in the States, for example. There's a real difference, and also versus I think in India, there's a lot of Indians, and like so there's this real distinct cultural difference, depending on what kind of background you've got, what type of socialization, what kind of sex education you've had, what kind of upbringing. So a lot of Americans come to me with a real Christian background, so they've had a real heavy layer of shame of sex before marriage, and of anything that deviates, heterosexual, married, good Christian sex, and so that's really tricky to overcome, because they've got a lot of different baggage to the baggage that we carry. I think really common one with Americans, and particularly guys in America, is you get a lot of questions about whether being cut, circumcised or intact is going to make a difference, because so many guys over there are circumcised. So the few, because there are less who are still intact, but those guys are really nervous and are sort of saying, oh, maybe I should go in and have my foreskin removed because a girl's never going to go for it, or maybe it's going to hurt her, or maybe it's going to hurt me, because all their guys are also, all guy mates are all circumcised, and it's, it's a mess.
Never heard that before.
I know, and it seems like such a strange thing to us over here, because we are so the other way over here in the UK. Like, most guys are intact. So it's, and I sort of try and remind, these, or tell these guys, it's like, well, I know it may not mean a huge amount to you, but over here in Europe, it's much more unusual to have been circumcised. And, I can tell you now, like, guys are having perfectly fine sex. And, it's over here, generally, there are still some, religions who circumcise, but generally, it's only done when it's medically required over here, when somebody needs it because their foreskin's causing them problems for some reason, but yeah, there's all sorts of myths, but I think we've hit quite a few of them, and most of them are just surrounding like what people think about what having a sex toy means. Like, it means more than it means. All it means is you have a sex toy.
Yeah,
that's actually all it means. That's all it means. And I think, like, when I speak to guys as well in particular, it's like, oh, what will people think? Well, it's like, I feel like a lot of guys don't understand the concept of a secret. You don't have to tell anyone. You can also put your toy under your bed. Even if you have a partner, like, your partner isn't responsible for your sexual satisfaction, and you're not responsible for theirs either. And you can still have separate enjoyment. Like, I'm a great believer in people still maintaining time for masturbation and solo play, even when they're coupled, because not only is not fair on your partner to make them completely responsible for your gratification, but you also shouldn't be feeling shameful if you have a cheeky shower wank. Like, Jesus, can't, it's fine. It's your body. And so I think that's a lot of myths as well. It's like, once you're in a relationship, what do you have a need for sex toys for? It's still very much stigmatized as a single person thing.
I think it's two completely separate things, personally.
Yeah, that's exactly the same. And sometimes you might bring those toys into your, shared sex life as well. But yeah, to me, it's entirely separate. And yeah, to stop yourself doing one, or to feel like you should, or if a partner was to put pressure on you to not do that thing. It's like, one thing I've read quite a few times online is that some people think of masturbation as like cheating, and that blows my mind. Like, I really try and understand things from other, because I'm like, okay, well, how can you come to that conclusion, and all I can think is I think some people get caught up in, like, maybe they're not having as much sex as they want in a relationship, but they can't have that conversation, and then they feel if their partner's going off and, I don't know, masturbating, maybe it's like, oh, well, that was the one chance and they've just done it down the drain or whatever. I don't know. I don't know when a sock.
Sorry, is that done it? Oh no, the sock's back.
Oh, the sock, exactly. But what it actually boils down to is there's a missing conversation there, which is actually, it's nothing to do with the fact that that person is having a solo session. It's actually something else is missing here. That person's feeling that they're not having enough sex in that relationship. That's the conversation that needs to happen. But a lot of us struggle with these conversations. So you end up blurting about something else, or, you know, people aren't given the tools to have these conversations really with their partner without feeling embarrassed or shamed or like they're being judged or judging their partner. It's complicated. It really is.
Yeah, I think communication. That's what it boils down to in every aspect of life.
Yeah, completely, in every aspect. And it's one of those things that I feel like I always feel bad saying it, but it really is the truth, because people ask me all the time, what's your top tip? What's your best tip for, you know, great sex in a relationship? And no one wants to hear the answer that I give them, which is communication. Everyone's like, oh God, oh, like, isn't there like a magic switch you can flick, or like, you know? And it's like, well, you know, you can add all these fun things and all the rest of it, but the reality is, if you're not talking, like, I mean, if you can't talk to your partner about sex, I mean, you know, you're letting them do all this stuff with you, but you can't have that conversation. And, you know, I say this so now, like later in life, but I was that person, you know. I think we've all gone through it because we've all had such crap sex education when we were younger. You know, we really were not given the tools to do this. You know, you're just expected to just know it. Oh, off you go on then. You know, trial and error. Scariest thing, like riskiest thing to do trial and error with is love and sex. But off we go and we do it. You know.
I think it's more than important this time around now with all the access we have on the internet to everything. So like younger people are going to look at porn and go, oh, so that's how you do it. When it's like, no.
Yeah. But I don't have a stepsister.
Exactly. Yeah, it's mad. And it sort of comes back to what we said earlier. You know, if you haven't got proper sex education to balance it, then, you know, people are curious and they want to know how to do sex good, you know, so they do turn to porn, or, you know, even if it's not porn, it's Hollywood, it's Bridgerton, it's whatever it is, it's whatever's you know, right? And there's plenty of sex scenes in TV, and some are better than others, but generally speaking, it's not terribly accurate, you know, because it's not very TV ready if it's accurate, you know, and it's
no,
you know, and I don't believe that necessarily, you know, staged sex scenes should be more accurate. You know, I'm very happy for there to be a place for fantasy. Like it's written as a fantastical story, you know. In an ideal world, yes, people would come in 3 seconds from touching their clit for like blowing over. Yeah, that would be what, in an ideal world, wouldn't that be magical? But the reality is, yeah, orgasm. But it just isn't the case. So, you know, and it's fine for that to exist as a form of entertainment. But when people are going like, okay, and okay, like that's a problem, right? So yeah, we need more education. It's accessible as well. Accessible is like really key. But yeah, thank God for the internet, but also, oh God, the internet. Like it's both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you've had your own podcasts, and I'm not entirely sure. Do you still podcast now, or has university just taken over your entire life?
That yeah. So I've worked on, I was a host on the Love Honey podcast for a while, and then I had one with Annabelle Knight called Sex and Other Stuff, and I think there are still a few episodes knocking about on the internet somewhere, but then the world shut down, and to begin with, Annabelle and I didn't really have a great way of doing this long distance thing. Like we've all become pros at this now, haven't we? This like long distance. In the early lockdown, we were like, well, how do we do it? Will the sound quality be okay? You know, we were all like, so it just didn't happen. But I'm in the process of planning and launching my own podcast. So my new podcast is all about not making babies, because I talk a lot about sex, but I'm a person who doesn't want children. So I'm making a podcast called I Kid You Not. And
right now.
So I found it. This is exactly what I talk about, because my other half, we don't either.
Okay.
Because I feel like we're too selfish. You know, we want to travel the world. We want to go and do things. We want to, you know, it's just like, I just don't. And then plus with the way the world is as well, I'm like, I don't want to bring a child into that. I don't feel it's fair.
Yeah, I'm completely on board with all of those things. Exactly the same here. Plus a few, you know, they're gross. Kids are like, like they're expensive. Like there's so many reasons, like as far as I'm concerned. And it was just like, basically it got to this point, you know, because I had a bunch of friends who they all said the same thing. They were like, yeah, kids, gross. Yeah, never want those. What are they all doing? Making freaking babies. And now I'm like, well, I have no friends left because they're all making babies. And anyway, I was like sort of bitching about it with my partner. I was like, they're all having babies. Someone needs to make a club where I can go and talk to other people who don't want to make babies. I was like, right, I'm going to make a podcast. And weirdly, I've had like, so far the interest in it has been great. So I think I've got like a few guests lined up. I'd love to have you on the show as well if you'd be happy to come on and chat.
I'd love to.
So yeah, that's the goal, and I don't know how long it will run for. I don't know what kind of legs it's got, but I'm going to certainly do at least a season or two and just see how it goes and get back into the podcasting ring, because I do miss
amazing. But then I feel that subject also is another taboo one now, because people are like, what do you mean you don't want kids? Well, that's ridiculous. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
No.
It still is. And it's, I think I didn't realize actually how, because I've felt like this for quite a long time, and I've always been very open with it. And, you know, it's kind of, I've now reached the age where people have stopped saying to me, though, you'll feel different when you're older, which only tells me that I'm old now, I guess. Like, I don't know. What does that?
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. Cheers, yeah. So people stop saying that to me now. I've reached that age where they're like, "How old are you?" "Oh, in your 30s." Yeah, probably too late now. No, thank you. But yeah, it's weird. I don't think I realized how taboo it is. But then again, I think I'm sort of almost the same with sex, really. I don't know that I really think these things through. I just think I'm passionate about this. I'm going to chat about it. And then it's when I get the feedback and people are like, "Oh, I'm so glad you're talking on this subject." It's like, oh shit. Okay. Right. Okay. Like this is a thing that actually still needs talking about. And so, you know, I did a bunch of market research on it. Like I've actually done it proper. And I was like looking into it, and there's still, not only are there are a few podcasts that discuss it, but they're basically all American, which again, it's a completely different background to that chat. And when I was sort of looking at the mainstream media, like really popular podcasts, TV shows, magazine articles, it's all still really pushes like parenthood. Like they're some of the top performing kind of pieces of media that are out there. I think the one that really, really triggered me was like, I made the mistake of checking Twitter, which always makes me angry. Like Twitter is a bad idea for anyone's sanity. But I happened to see a Metro, like, I mean, again, the Metro.
Fucking hell.
yeah, I know. Don't judge me. But this Metro headline came up, and it was something about, it was like, more women than ever in their 30s are delaying having children. I was like, I'm sorry, delaying? How about not having kids? Like, it was just their choice of words really got to me, because I was like, A, you focused it all on women. I do not understand how making babies works. Like, it kind of usually takes two genders, like usually. And second of all, it's this choice of the word delay, as if like it's unfathomable to discuss in mainstream media that, no, we've just decided not to reproduce. It's like delaying. Oh, they'll do it a bit later, maybe. It's like, no, that's pissed me off now. I need to talk about this, you know? So
there are 140 characters and you're getting all of them, bitch.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I did send them a really snotty tweet, but I was like, I could do more productive stuff with this and maybe just start a podcast instead. And so yeah, I can bitch about it every week now. So that'd be
genius. That's a great idea.
Thank you. I hope it takes off seemingly. And like, what's actually really surprised me is that there are a lot of people who do have kids who are interested in the podcast. And I don't know what that means. I don't know. I suspect that some people are just interested to know why people choose not to have kids.
Okay.
You know, nosiness.
It's not an adoption thing.
What a dreadful idea that was. Like, let me take
you can't turn back. Like, you know, it's like no returns, really. But because I was a bit nervous about putting it out there, because I thought, God, I've got all my friends are going to know that it's because I'm pissed off at them. Like, for being traitors. Like, but they've actually all been really lovely and very supportive. So like, so far so good.
So one of the opportunities this line of work has given you was to work on E4's sex clinic.
Yes.
I watched like a few clips from it earlier on today while doing my research. How was that to work on? Because that just looked interesting, to say the least.
It was really interesting. And even so, I'd done TV before, but it was very much kind of fly on the wall type stuff where every now and then someone would say, oh, Jess, can you like point at that thing and say a thing? Can you do this? Was the first time I'd been cast properly as like talent. You know,
wow.
like, you know, and they put me up and I had a makeup artist and stuff. I was like, oh my God, I'm doing like TV, you know, so it felt really proper. So it was a mad experience in all ways. It was mad from the perspective of just like, thinking back to my Ant and Dec days. I mean, they'd be mortified to think that they probably inspired some pervert to go on TV. But like thinking back to that, I was like, oh my God, like I'm kind of doing it, you know, and having the whole experience of it. And plus being really nerdy about production, you know, they were like, oh, you know, your call time's not till, 11, Jess, you don't need to come in. It's like, yeah, but what time's the production meeting? Because I really want to be there for that. And I want to be nosy and I want to find out what's going on. They were like, okay, you can come in at 7 if you want, you know? So I'm there like, you know, like nerding out about all the TV stuff. Then on the other side, you know, we met some really interesting people and like, there were all sorts of contributors who came on to sort of chat to us. I didn't speak to all of them. It's all kind of, it's all orchestrated. So you speak to a few people. But there were some really interesting people we spoke to. And it's long days, as you'd expect in TV. It was, we filmed in the midst of summer and it was boiling. They took on a whole floor of Guy's Hospital in London, which was amazing. So they wipe out a whole floor and they turn it into a film set, which is like super cool.
Wow.
But it was boiling. So we were on like the 14th floor or something. So it's like absolutely, and you can't have aircon on or anything when the sound's running because so you're like just like melting. I was sliding off the freaking chair where I was just sweating. It's like, oh, so it's not as glamorous as it looks on TV. Honestly, I was like, oh, I'm so gross the whole time.
Like my throat right now, you need lubricant.
Yeah, exactly. It was just, it was really good. It was like a personal goal that I'd ticked off. I really hope it's going to come back because bloody coronavirus put a stop to it because it's so obviously dealing with members of the public. As soon as we had social distancing in, shows like that, reality TV shows were just like, nope, you know, you just couldn't do it. Which was such a shame. And, you know, my job was talking about sort of giving them sex advice and talking about toys. And, you know, if someone was having maybe like painful sex and things like that, you know, they would come to me for advice. But if you watch the show, it kind of, the process is you have somebody come in. The initial thing is they go and see the medical team and they have a STI screening. So that's where it all starts. And then during that consultation, if they have a question about like, oh, I've always wondered how butt plugs work, you know, they're like, oh, we're going to, you know, refer you to our sexpert. And then that's when they come and talk to me. But obviously that's all very close encounters with the medical team, which, you know, it was still happening during coronavirus in real clinics. To a certain extent, although a lot of it was done by postal by that point. But I think for the sake of a TV show, you know, you can't really, I don't think you can really justify that closeness when we didn't understand what coronavirus was, certainly anyway. And it would be kind of hard to film all wearing face masks.
Yeah.
You know, it's very difficult.
You should try using one of these. I can't see it from 2 meters away. What's that exactly?
Exactly,
Yeah.
You know, and I did get in touch with them and I said, oh, you know, I do feel like there's still something here that we should do the show because number one, just because there's a pandemic doesn't mean that all of a sudden all other health goes out the window. You know, sexual health is still important in this time, you know, and you know, people still need to know that they can go for routine checkups, even in a pandemic. And I think there's something to be said for, you know, we could have had doubles of toys. You know, we could have had them have one and me have one. And, you know, with fancy, clever camera work, you kind of can make it work. But it really boiled down to, as far as I can tell, it was just, you know, justifying that type of show. And also a lot went into just, you know, making a set that was socially distant. And, you know, my partner worked on a few shows, like most of TV shut down, but he managed to still maintain a few jobs through coronavirus. It just sounded like a nightmare. You know, like on one job, they had like buzzers, you know, like proximity buzzers. So that, like, because all the cast and crew had to be completely separate from one another. And yeah, it was just bonkers. So it would have been impossible, but fingers crossed it'll come back in the future. I really hope it does, because it was really great show to work on. And yeah, I learned a lot in season 1, which meant I was much better for season 2. And I just felt like I was getting into the flow of it, and I was looking forward to doing 3 and feeling like I really knew what I was doing,
Fingers crossed. Well, hell, if it doesn't come back, your show will get picked up.
Yes, I hope so. That's the goal.
Just quickly, I had a really weird thought of these about the proximity buzzers, about if people were walking around all moving backwards, it'd be like, boop, boop. Like, person reversing.
That would be so good.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
My God, Dragon's Den.
In town anyway. They should have that, like, when you're walking behind someone and they just suddenly stop to look in a window and you just kind of, they should have it. Like, I have to be honest, I don't hate social distancing. I'm kind of into it. So I'm fine.
Perfect.
Just keep people away from me. It's fine.
One thing makes me laugh as well when I was watching your social media, and I was like, this is just me and my imagination running away from myself. You're doing all these different videos with different toys and whatnot, and I'm thinking, most people have like a toy drawer. She must have like a toy chest of drawers from doing all these reviews.
Yeah, I have
that face says it all.
Yeah, my flat is, like, I'm blind to it now. And I mean, my mum is quite used to, like, I've had this job for a while now, so she's not, but even she'll come around now and be like, God, Jess, there's just penises everywhere. Like, what is going on, like, so, but they double up, because so my bathroom, I've got like butt plugs stuck to the wall, and they've got my little radio hung off it, and like my scrunchies and stuff, and like, so
Phenomenal.
One's a door stop. I think I've got like some artwork hung up with like chained nipple clamps, it's like it all gets used, it's all, but yeah, it's becoming problematic. I need some way of organizing it, and I actually honestly don't know how to do it at this stage, because it's got ridiculous, and people will send me stuff all the time, which I love. It's great, because I always need the latest thing to have as a prop, and I'm also really bad at getting rid of stuff. So it's just like it's just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Every single room has got like, it's whenever I, like, if I have to have an engineer come out or a landlord, I'm usually happy. I'm like, you've got a key, don't, just go on in, just don't break your neck on a penis, for Christ's sake. Because there's just dildos everywhere. It's ridiculous. But such is life.
Great. That's fucking amazing.
I honestly don't know how I'm going to do this transition, but let's give it a try anyway. In our original conversation, you mentioned that, like us, you were a big supporter of these guys.
Yes.
Sophie Lancaster Foundation.
Yes.
And we never shy away from any opportunity to talk about them and raise some awareness for them. Yeah. So what is it about the foundation and Sophie's story that meant so much to you to even mention it in the original email?
Well, for me, I remember it being a story at the time. It really hit me. I can't remember how old I was when Sophie was killed. But I must have been about 15, something like that. And it just really struck me, because I was really full into my goth phase at that point. And I remember, we all know the classic picture of Sophie. She's got her dark eyeliner on, and she had her like braids, like her wraps in, like the red and black wraps in her hair. Hang on a minute, the dog. Not now. I'm talking about Sophie Lancaster. Go away. Oh, Jesus. So she had her like black and red wraps in, and I literally just had my hair done like that. Like, I had the same hair, and I just remember seeing this picture of her, and the initial thing was like, oh, cool, like she's got the same hair as me. And then you read the story and you're like, oh God, Jesus. And I remember at that time as well, the chav culture was rife, and there seemed to be it seemed really real anyway, the violence between these two cultures at the time. But Sophie, that really brought it to the surface and into the mainstream media. Like it wasn't just an issue between teenagers anymore. It wasn't just like playground differences or mods and rockers. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't just that anymore. It was like, this is real violence against a person because of the way that they look. And it really just hit home to me, because it was part of who I viewed as my community. She was part of my community, and it could have been any one of us. It could have been any one of my friends. It could have been me, just because she looked alternative, because she looked goth, And so it just really struck home to me. I remember it being one of those first stories as a young girl who I really empathized, and I felt like I'd lost one of my friends. I didn't know her, But, you know, I felt as if it really could have been anybody that I knew. And through the alternative community, because I think we are such a close-knit community, and we really do, in the metal and goth community, we all do have each other's backs. You know, outsiders look at mosh pits and they think it's very violent, but internally it's all about, you know, you pick each other up, you've all got each other's backs. It's very that, and it's a more loving community than I would even argue like the hippie community. Do you know what I mean? Like, we've all got each other because we're all outsiders and we need each other. So it really felt like we'd lost one of our own. Yeah. And then so with being within the community and like her amazing parents who took this tragedy and then made this charity, I was lucky enough to sort of meet her parents. I doubt they'd remember me, but, you know, at an alternative fair years later. And it's just, it always struck me not only how sad the story was and how personal it felt, but also how amazing her parents were at doing something positive with it. Yeah, and that still blows my mind to this day, their strength and tenacity to do that. So yeah, it's one that's very close to my heart, and one that I've always been a big supporter of. And yeah, so when you guys reached out and I saw, you know, before I even listened to any of your shows, which I did before I agreed, but the first thing I was like, oh, okay, like I'm on board, because these guys, they know where it's at. And like, you know, so yeah, it just definitely felt like a really personal one for me.
Yeah, we started for us. We interviewed Sylvia. We had Sophie's mum on the show, wow. And after we spoke to her, which like, this woman is so inspiring. It was like, can we email them? Which like, can we please like associate ourselves with you? Can we just push your brand every single week? Yeah. Because we want everyone we can to help out. Like, we're hosting a charity concert in about a month's time. And amazing. All the money's going to Sophie Lancaster Foundation.
Oh, that's amazing. Is this the one you're doing in Birmingham? Is it
Birmingham? It is, yeah. Yes.
Oh, amazing. Oh, that's going to be great.
Come on down, Jess. It'd be amazing.
Yeah, if I can make it up to Birmingham, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I haven't been to Birmingham in ages, and I love Birmingham. It's one of those places that, of all the places, when I would do, like, if I'm going to a gig, because often bands play in Birmingham, even though there's London is much closer to me, I'll generally choose Birmingham for gigs, because I like the venue. Birmingham, people in Birmingham are always super friendly, and yeah, I just love it up there. So yeah, that would be great. What venue are you doing the gig at?
It's a rock pub called Scruffy Murphy's.
Okay. Oh, is that the one that's around the corner from the Academy? Is that on the corner? Yeah, I know it. Yeah. Okay. I know
see,
exactly you are. Excellent.
You've got no excuse to not be there now. You know.
Right, I'll be there.
No pressure, Jess. No pressure at all.
Right. Before we start wrapping up, Tom, have you got any more questions?
Yeah. Did you ever think, Jess, that when you were growing up, that this is where you would be today in university, studying media, being a sexpert, having been on Channel 4, having a podcast about not wanting children?
No, I can honestly say no. I don't know where I thought I'd be. I think, do you know, I don't even know. I have no idea. I think what I thought is, I thought I wouldn't be in this country because I grew up in Canada. So I was born here, lived there, came back when I was like 10. So I split my school like between there and here. Wow. But the thing was always going to be, it was like, well, I'll do school and then I'll go back, like, you know, I'll be out of here. I'm getting out of here. And so like, I honestly, really in the bottom of my soul, I can't believe I'm here, like still in the UK, because I really thought by 18, I'd be maybe doing university in Canada and you know, I'd probably be working in some, like, I don't know, back end of nowhere. I'd probably have like a cute lodge or something somewhere, like just spending my time in a lake somewhere. So anyway, I'm glad I didn't do that, because there have been better media opportunities here, I think. So
hindsight's a wonderful thing, though, isn't it? You can always wonder, what if I'd done that? But
yes,
everything happens for a reason.
Exactly. And I am glad, because, you know, it's been an interesting journey. Like we came here as kids. My brother, you know, he's also here as well. But actually both of us, the older we get, we're both really thankful that we're in the UK, because in both our industries, it's led us on to better things. So I think I wouldn't have had the opportunities in TV if I'd have moved back to Canada. My brother's in a band, they're doing really well. I don't know if you know the band Foxjaw, but they're like pushing into the industry.
Okay.
And so again, like they probably wouldn't have had quite the same push in Canada, because it's just such a huge country. So overall, actually, the older we get, we're like, oh, do you know what? A, I'm really glad we're here. And B, I'm personally glad that I and he have had our successes a bit later in life, when we're a little bit more rounded, a bit more mature and a bit more ready for it. You know, we all dream of success, whatever that is, you know, when we're young, but I don't think I would have had the sensible-ish head that I've got now to have been able to handle any level of publicity, you know, back then. So, and long may it continue, and I hope it continues to grow, but I am glad that it's happening for me later in life, you know. And there were some moments when I thought, oh God, am I too old now for this? I mean, you know, I'm not old, I'm 34, you know, that's not old at all. But people like to make you believe that is, or it's too late to maybe start a new career, or, you know, people thought I was bonkers when I left Love Honey because I didn't have another job to go to, but that chapter had passed, you know, and I needed to leave. People were like, well, what do you mean? Have you got another job? I was like, no, but I just need something new. Like, I'm out. Like, you know, they're like, God, that's terrifying. Like, what if you don't find another job? You know, it's like, well, sometimes you just have to do the thing, you know, and move on, you know. And yeah, I think
Swansea. That's where I'm going.
Swansea was where I ended up. Yeah. Interesting there, but yeah.
Jess, before we let you go, we have a little game we like to play with our guests if you're willing to play.
Yes.
We call it the quick fire round. You literally answer questions as quick as you can, and it's easy to know the answers because it's all about you.
Okay.
And
is it like one word answers?
Just answer them as quick as you can, really.
Okay.
Don't have to be one worded.
Okay.
No, I've added some new questions in for this one. So the first one, this is dedicated to my good co-host here. What's your favourite breakfast cereal?
Oh, Cinnamon Grahams.
Oh, good shout. Yeah, strong choice.
So good, aren't they? Or what are they called now? Curiously cinnamon. They'll always be Cinnamon Grahams.
Yeah, they're always great. Yeah. I don't know why to Graham up. Did Graham complain? Because he was not happy that he was gold with cinnamon? Like, what's going on? Deliver it, Graham. You're a cereal now. Grow up.
What is a language you would love to learn?
Oh God, all of them. I was gonna learn, like, I think Spanish is the most useful because so many places speak it. I'd really like to learn like Farsi, because I think that would also be really useful. That would be really, really great. And unexpected. So I think probably one of those two. But in reality, I should probably just polish up my German, considering I spent 5 years doing it at school. I should probably just actually revisit that.
It's a great language as well. I think German's a great language to learn.
Yeah, it'd be good. But I've never been. I really want to go to Germany. It's like on the list. I really want to go.
Totally do. I lived there for 7 years. It's great.
Oh, I'd love to go.
It's incredible.
Oh, yes. Pretzels. That's what I need.
Beer, pretzels,
pretzels. Yeah, exactly.
Who would play you in the movie of your life?
I've always thought I'd really like Gillian Anderson to play me. Like, I freaking love her. So it would have to be me in the future. But YouTube likes to tell me that I look like Boy George. So maybe Boy George.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's a shame I don't have a hat. I could I don't even entirely disagree. Like, okay. So yeah, Gillian Anderson or Boy George, I reckon.
Why do you say these things? Do you really want to hurt me?
Sorry. Oh, I'm going to use this. I love that.
Sorry, Tom.
That's okay.
One word that people would use to describe you.
Probably stubborn.
Oh, okay.
I was honestly expecting you to say pervert.
I was going to say rebellious, but I always feel like, I suppose it's like I push boundaries, and like devil's advocate is probably one that people would use a lot around me, because I'm always there to sort of show the other side of a coin, even if I don't agree with it. It's just, I like balance. I like to show the other side of something.
And last but not least, if you were to get into a time machine, go back in time and give one piece of advice to young Jess, what would that be?
Don't worry so much what other people think. Yeah, I think that's a major one, because even though, like you say, I come across as confident stuff, I still have all those inner demons. And I definitely have like strong imposter syndrome. So yeah, don't worry yourself with what other people think. And don't worry too much about, in the same way as the other way, like don't worry too much about trying to make other people proud. Like just worry about making yourself proud and be happy with what you do in life. And I think that's vital.
Beautifully put. I couldn't have ended this any other way.
Incredible. I honestly feel like we could have carried on chatting for at least another 2 hours, but I figured we should probably put this to an end at some point.
Yeah.
That's the word. People would call me talkative. That's the one word, because people say I don't shut up. So
it's great. It's great though. It's nothing worse than talking to someone who's like, yeah, right.
Oh yeah.
It's like get blood out of a stone. Like, oh my god, like come on.
Yeah. Do you get people like that on the show?
We've only have had one in our entire 2 years. We've only had one, and
that's good. But
Jess, this has been so much fun. Thank you so much for doing this. It means the world.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me. Honestly, it's been great. It's been so lovely to chat to you both. You're both absolutely lovely. And I would love to have both of you, one of you, whoever's not having kids on my show.
I've got 4, so I'm no good on this one.
Oh, you're no good for my podcast. but I do intend to do another one down the line where we talk about other stuff. So probably like more of a sex tip, So if you're up for something like that, that'll be amazing.
I'll join you for that any day.
Amazing. But do keep in touch, because I've really, really enjoyed this. And I can't wait to see the episode when it comes out.
Next Friday.
It's next Friday.
Yeah.
So
quick.
Yeah.
So someone's got some editing to do then.
Yeah.
But before we do let you go, Jess, there's 2 things I'd like to ask, if that is okay. First and foremost, are there any plugs, social medias, anything you want people to go and check out?
Plugs meant something else entirely.
There you go. See, yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. If people want to find me on social media, I've got my Instagram, my Twitter, and TikTok. It's all the same handle. It's Jess _Wilde with an E. So you can find me over there. Do have a website. There's not much on there. And like I said, in the coming weeks, I will be launching my own podcast. That's called I Kid You Not. And again, you can find me on the socials. I think if you just type in I Kid You Not, I should pop up on the socials as well. So yeah, absolutely. But if you keep up with my TikTok and my Instagram, that's usually where I share all my new and exciting stuff that's going on. So keep an eye there, and you won't miss me.
Beautiful. This has been phenomenal. I've loved every second of it. Thank you so much for taking the time out. We really do appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much. I hope it's not too much ramble and it's easy enough to edit.
Perfect.
No, people listen to us enough in the show itself. So, they want to hear from the guest when we have interviews. So.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. Well, yeah, let me know when it's out and I will share it on all my socials and bits and pieces. So tag me in it and I'll make sure I share it out there.
Thank you, Jess.
Will do. Thank you so much. It's been amazing. Really appreciate it.
Oh, lovely to meet you both, guys.
You
Thank you
have
for having
me. Take care now. Bye.
All right.
Is this thing on?
Well, howdy doody, everybody. This is Braden Berry from Say We Can Fly, founder of Stay Cozy Clothing, your one-stop shop for the coziest, most fashionable hoodies, t-shirts, and more.
Gosh, Mickey. That's right, folks. And we're proud to say that we are now sponsoring
the Chronicles of Podcast. Ouch.
Hosted by Tom and Jamie.
Like, you can get 10% off, man. That's right, Shaggy. Just use the special code, The Chronicles, at checkout.
Oh, boy.
I love that conversation so much. If there's only one regret I have about this interview, it's the fact we didn't do it a week later due to one video she posted on TikTok the other day, and I just needed to ask questions about it.
What was it?
She did a video. It was 6 alternatives to lube.
Okay.
The final one was egg whites.
What?
Yes. If I was ever in a sexual situation and a girl went, oh, we need some lube, and grabbed an egg, there would literally be a smoke shape where I was, because we'd be out the fucking room.
You're not a fan of eggs?
I don't like eating eggs, let alone having them slathered all over me privates,
Johnson.
I was going to say Johnson as well.
Yes, Austin Powers. Dude, fair. If it works, it works. Who cares?
Fair enough. Just why? And especially egg whites. So, you've got to sit there and separate the yolk before you can get down to it.
I won't be a minute, love. I might bake, actually. I might bake while I'm here.
A Victoria sponge.
That's in oven. Oh, fuck that, actually. Yeah, that's cake. Cake's in oven. Don't worry, you're fine. Still,
Anyway,
Jess, thank you so much for taking the time to sit down and chat to us. We really, really appreciate it. It meant the world to us. We loved every second. And we hope that you guys enjoyed listening to it as much as we did recording it.
Hey there. I'm Frank Guglielmelli, and I'm the narrator for the audio drama feed, featuring such audio dramas as Bounty Hunters, Marty and Mars, Val Toby, and so much more. You can find all of these wonderful programs on Spotify or wherever you listen to podcasts. Or you can go to our website at www.audiodramafeed.com. We are thrilled to be affiliated with the Chronicles of Podcast with Tom and Jamie.